In the year 356 BCE, in the ancient city of Pella, capital of the kingdom of Macedon, a child was born who would one day change the world forever. His name was Alexander, son of King Philip II and Queen Olympias. From the moment of his birth, legends surrounded him. It was said that the same night Alexander was born, the great temple of Artemis at Ephesus burned to the ground, an omen, as seers declared, that the power of Asia was about to be destroyed. None could have imagined how prophetic those words would become. Alexander grew up under the shadow of his father, King Philip II, a brilliant military strategist who transformed Macedon from a minor kingdom into a dominant Greek power. Philip's ambition was to unite all of Greece under his rule and lead a great campaign against the Persian Empire. Young Alexander was raised in this world of warfare, diplomacy, and vision. From an early age, he displayed signs of brilliance, courage, and an almost divine sense of destiny. His mother, Olympias, nurtured in him the belief that he was descended from the gods, a child of Zeus himself. When Alexander was a boy, his father hired the greatest teacher of the age to guide his mind, Aristotle, the philosopher. For 3 years, Aristotle taught him philosophy, science, politics, and literature. The philosopher instilled in the young prince not only a love of knowledge, but also a sense of purpose, the idea that leadership required both intellect and action. Alexander learned about Homer's Iliad, and he carried a copy of it with him throughout his life, sleeping with it under his pillow during his military campaigns. The hero Achilles became his eternal role model. As a youth, Alexander was restless, ambitious, and fiercely proud. One famous story tells of his attempt to tame a wild horse named Bucephalus. When all others failed, Alexander noticed that the horse was afraid of its own shadow. He turned it toward the sun, mounted it, and rode it effortlessly. His father, astonished, declared that Macedonia was too small for his son. He would need to find a kingdom worthy of his greatness. Those words foreshadowed the empire Alexander would one day build. By the age of 16, Alexander was already commanding armies. When his father went to war against Byzantium, Alexander was left in charge of Macedon. When a Thracian tribe rebelled, the young prince crushed them with ruthless efficiency and founded a city, Alexandropolis, in his own name. His military genius was unmistakable even then. He led men twice his age with confidence, charisma, and an uncanny understanding of battlefield tactics. In 338 BCE, when Alexander was just 18, he fought beside his father in the Battle of Chaeronea, where the Macedonians defeated the combined forces of Athens and Thebes. Alexander led the cavalry charge that broke the sacred band of Thebes, an elite unit once thought invincible. It was a decisive moment that marked the unification of Greece under Macedonian rule. But beneath the triumph, tension brewed between father and son. King Philip's new marriage to Cleopatra Eurydice, a Macedonian noblewoman, created a political rift. Her relatives began to spread rumors questioning Alexander's legitimacy, calling him the son of a foreign witch rather than a true Macedonian. During a drunken feast, one of Cleopatra's uncles insulted Alexander, and the young prince, furious, threw his cup at him. Philip rose to strike his son, but stumbled and fell. Alexander, disgusted, shouted, "Behold the man who plans to cross from Europe into Asia, and yet cannot even cross from one couch to another." Humiliated and enraged, Alexander fled Macedon with his mother and spent several months in exile. But fate would soon bring him back. In 336 BCE, during a grand celebration, King Philip was assassinated, stabbed by one of his bodyguards. To this day, historians debate who was behind the murder. Some say it was a personal vendetta. Others whisper that Olympias herself plotted the deed to secure her son's throne. Whatever the truth, Alexander returned swiftly to Pella and was proclaimed king of Macedon at just 20 years old. The new king wasted no time consolidating power. Rivals and rebels rose across the kingdom, hoping to take advantage of his youth. But Alexander acted with ruthless precision. He executed all potential claimants, crushed revolts, and marched south into Greece to reassert control. When Thebes rebelled, Alexander laid siege to the city and destroyed it completely, killing thousands and selling the survivors into slavery. His message was clear: resistance would be met with annihilation. The rest of Greece submitted without a fight. Now, with Greece united under his command, Alexander turned his gaze east toward Persia, the greatest empire the world had ever seen. His father's dream became his own destiny. In 334 BCE, he gathered an army of 40,000 men and crossed the Hellespont into Asia Minor. As he set foot on Asian soil, he threw a spear into the ground and declared it a gift to the gods. The conquest of Asia had begun. His first test came at the Battle of the Granicus River, where the Persian satraps met him with a strong cavalry force. Many of his generals warned him not to attack, but Alexander ignored them. He led a daring charge across the river, personally engaging in hand-to-hand combat. He nearly died when a Persian noble struck him with an axe, but his loyal general Cletus saved his life. The Macedonians emerged victorious, and Asia Minor fell under Alexander's control. His fame spread like wildfire. From there, Alexander moved swiftly through Asia Minor, liberating Greek cities from Persian control and presenting himself not as a conqueror, but as a liberator. Yet he also demanded loyalty and worship. In every city he entered, he was hailed as a divine hero, and temples began to honor him alongside the gods. His sense of destiny grew with each victory. In 333 BCE, Alexander faced his greatest challenge yet: King Darius III of Persia. At the Battle of Issus, the two armies met in a narrow coastal plain. The Persians vastly outnumbered the Macedonians, but Alexander's strategy and leadership turned the tide. He led a direct charge toward Darius himself, causing the Persian king to flee the battlefield. The Persian army collapsed in panic, and Alexander captured Darius's family, his wife, mother, and daughters. Instead of mistreating them, Alexander treated them with respect and honor, further enhancing his reputation as both noble and unstoppable. Following Issus, Alexander turned south toward Egypt. The cities opened their gates to him, welcoming him as a liberator from Persian rule. In 331 BCE, he founded the city of Alexandria, which would one day become one of the greatest centers of learning and culture in the ancient world. The priests of Egypt declared him the son of the god Amun, and at the oracle of Siwa, Alexander was proclaimed son of Zeus Amen. This divine recognition fueled his belief that he was destined to rule the world. By this time, Alexander's empire stretched from Greece to Egypt, but his ambition was limitless. He marched east once more, determined to conquer the heart of Persia. His next encounter with Darius would decide the fate of empires, a confrontation that would test his brilliance, his will, and his belief in his own divinity. As the Macedonian army approached the plains of Gaugamela in 331 BCE, Darius prepared a massive force, perhaps 200,000 men, while Alexander's army numbered only 47,000. Yet numbers meant little when faced with genius. On that fateful morning, Alexander addressed his men, reminding them that they were not fighting for gold or glory, but for immortality. Remember, he told them, that from this battle we shall gain not only this world, but another. The stage was set for one of the greatest battles in history, a clash that would mark the peak of Alexander's rise and the beginning of his march into legend. As dawn broke over the plains of Gaugamela in 331 BCE, Alexander the Great faced the greatest test of his life. Before him stretched the might of the Persian Empire, hundreds of thousands of soldiers under King Darius III, drawn from every corner of his vast dominion. Elephants, scythed chariots, and archers filled the field. Alexander's army, though vastly outnumbered, stood calm and disciplined, hardened by years of victory. They were not just soldiers. They were believers, followers of a man who seemed touched by the divine. The battle began with Darius's chariots charging forward, their blades designed to tear through Macedonian lines. But Alexander's men had prepared for this moment. As the chariots approached, they opened their ranks, allowing the deadly machines to pass harmlessly through before surrounding and destroying them. Then Alexander executed his masterstroke. With his elite companion cavalry, he led a direct attack toward Darius himself, aiming for the heart of the Persian army. Panic rippled through the Persian lines. Seeing Alexander advancing, Darius lost his nerve once again and fled the battlefield. The moment the great king turned his chariot to run, his empire collapsed with him. The Persians broke and scattered, leaving behind their camp, their treasures, and the throne of Asia. Alexander pursued briefly, but soon ordered a halt. The victory was complete. The Persian Empire, the greatest the world had ever seen, now lay open before him. After Gaugamela, Alexander entered Babylon in triumph. The city's gates opened to him without resistance. The people hailed him not as a conqueror, but as a liberator. He treated Babylon with respect, sparing its temples and priests, and began adopting Persian customs. He restored the great temples of Mesopotamia and proclaimed himself king of Asia. Yet even in his triumph, Alexander's ambition was unquenched. He would not stop until every corner of the known world was under his rule. Marching deeper into Persia, Alexander captured the cities of Susa and Persepolis, the ceremonial capital of the Achaemenid Empire. There, amid the splendor of golden palaces and endless treasures, he ordered the seizure of the Persian royal treasury, enough wealth to finance his army for decades. But what happened next remains one of history's most debated moments. One night, during a drunken celebration, the city of Persepolis was set ablaze. Whether it was revenge for Persia's past invasion of Greece or simply a drunken whim, the flames consumed the palace of Xerxes, the symbol of Persian glory. Alexander later regretted it deeply, realizing that he had destroyed one of the wonders of the world. With the fall of Persepolis, Darius III fled eastward, gathering what remained of his loyal forces. Alexander pursued him relentlessly through deserts and mountains, determined to end the Persian dynasty once and for all. In 330 BCE, Darius was betrayed by his own satrap Bessus, who captured and mortally wounded him. When Alexander found the dying king, he covered his body with his cloak and mourned him as a brother monarch. He sent Darius's body back to Persia for royal burial, declaring himself the rightful heir to his empire. The conquest of Persia was complete, but Alexander's journey was far from over. Now ruler of the largest empire in history, Alexander began to transform himself from conqueror to emperor. He adopted Persian dress, customs, and even rituals of divine kingship. This shocked his Macedonian soldiers, who viewed such behavior as foreign and un-Greek. He began demanding that his subjects bow before him in the Persian manner, an act called proskynesis, which enraged many of his companions. To them, Alexander was no longer the son of Philip, the warrior king of Macedon, but something else entirely, a man who believed himself a god. Despite growing tensions within his ranks, Alexander pressed onward. He founded new cities named Alexandria wherever he went, spreading Greek culture and administration throughout his vast territories. He encouraged marriages between his soldiers and Persian women to unite the two peoples. To some, this was visionary. To others, it was betrayal. The more he ruled, the more Alexander became a symbol of both greatness and danger. In 327 BCE, restless for new conquests, Alexander turned his attention toward the mysterious lands beyond Persia, the edge of the known world, India. Crossing the formidable Hindu Kush mountains, he faced extreme hardships. His army endured freezing temperatures, treacherous terrain, and fierce resistance from local tribes. Yet Alexander pressed on, driven by an almost divine hunger for discovery. His first major challenge came at the siege of Iornos, a fortress perched high on an inaccessible cliff in what is now Pakistan. The locals claimed that even Heracles had failed to capture it. Determined to surpass the hero of myth, Alexander devised a brilliant plan. He built a causeway across a ravine, bringing siege engines close enough to attack. After days of brutal fighting, the fortress fell. Alexander had done what even legends could not, and his soldiers began to believe that perhaps he truly was invincible. The next great confrontation came at the Battle of the Hydaspes River in 326 BCE against King Paras of the Punjab. Paras commanded a vast army, including war elephants, creatures the Macedonians had never faced before. A battle took place during a violent storm. Alexander outwitted his opponent by secretly crossing the river at night and launching a surprise attack at dawn. The clash was fierce. The elephants caused chaos, trampling men and horses alike. Yet Alexander's tactical genius prevailed once again. Paras was defeated, but Alexander, impressed by his courage, allowed him to remain king under Macedonian rule. This victory marked the easternmost point of Alexander's conquests. Beyond the Hydaspes River lay the unknown, lands rumored to stretch endlessly, filled with more powerful kingdoms. Alexander was eager to march further, but his soldiers had reached their breaking point. They had fought for nearly a decade, marched thousands of miles from home, and faced countless dangers. Exhausted and homesick, they refused to go on. At the banks of the river Bees, Alexander confronted their rebellion. For the first time in his life, he was forced to turn back. Enraged yet humbled, Alexander ordered the construction of 12 massive altars to mark the edge of his empire. It was his way of claiming victory over the limits of the known world. As they began the long journey home, the army faced unimaginable hardships. Crossing the Jedrosian Desert, modern-day Baluchistan, thousands of soldiers perished from thirst and heat. The unforgiving desert reminded Alexander that even a godlike conqueror could not defeat nature. By the time he returned to Babylon in 324 BCE, Alexander was a changed man, both in body and spirit. He had conquered the world, but in doing so, had lost much of what once made him human. His closest friends had died in battle or fallen victim to his growing paranoia. His relationship with his army had fractured. His empire, vast and diverse, was held together by the force of his will alone. The man who had once united Greece and toppled Persia was now haunted by loneliness and suspicion. He had achieved everything, yet peace eluded him. Still, one dream burned within him: to push westward and conquer Arabia, the last great frontier. But fate, as always, had other plans. The rise of Alexander had been meteoric, a tale of courage, genius, and vision. Yet, even at the height of his glory, the seeds of his fall were already sown. His empire stretched farther than his ability to govern. His ambition exceeded mortal limits, and the divine fire that drove him began to consume him from within. As he settled in Babylon to plan his next campaign, the great conqueror stood at the pinnacle of power, unaware that his greatest enemy was not across the desert or beyond the sea, but within his own body and mind. The story of Alexander's fall, marked by tragedy, mystery, and the end of an empire, was about to begin. The final years of Alexander the Great's reign were a mixture of triumph, tragedy, and turmoil. Having conquered much of the known world, from Greece to Egypt and across the vast Persian Empire, Alexander found himself at the height of his power, yet also at the edge of exhaustion, both physically and emotionally. His dream of uniting East and West began to show cracks as his once loyal soldiers grew weary. His empire stretched thin, and a sense of divine destiny pushed him further into isolation. After conquering Persia, Alexander turned his gaze eastward. He wanted to reach the ends of the earth, To conquer lands that existed only in myths India was his next target. In 327 BCE, he led his army across the Hindu Kush mountains into the Indian subcontinent. There, he encountered fierce resistance, especially from King Porus of the Punjab. The Battle of the Hydaspes River in 326 BC was one of Alexander's most challenging fights. Porus's war elephants terrified the Macedonian horses, and the Indian archers unleashed devastating volleys. But Alexander's tactics, his use of feigned retreats and quick cavalry maneuvers, ultimately led to victory. However, it was a costly one. After the battle, Alexander was deeply impressed by Porus' bravery and leadership. When asked how he wished to be treated, Porus famously replied, "Like a king." Alexander, charmed by his courage, reinstated him as ruler and made him an ally. Yet even as Alexander's reputation for magnanimity spread, so too did the discontent within his ranks. His soldiers had marched thousands of miles, fought countless battles, and longed for home. When Alexander announced plans to push further east toward the Ganges River, his troops refused. At the Hyphasis River, they mutinied. It was the first time his men had openly defied him. Faced with their rebellion, Alexander had no choice but to turn back. He wept bitterly, not from defeat in battle, but from the realization that his dream of world conquest had met its limits, not by enemies, but by the fatigue of his own men. The march back through the Jedrosian Desert, modern-day Iran and Pakistan, became a nightmare. Scorching heat, lack of water, and hunger decimated his army. Thousands perished. When they finally reached Babylon, Alexander's empire was vast, but his army was broken. In Babylon, Alexander began planning new conquests of Arabia, perhaps even Carthage, but he was no longer the vibrant young king of Pella. His closest friends were dead, many by his own orders. Paranoia had taken hold of him. The execution of Parmenion, his old general, and later his friend Cletus the Black, who had once saved his life, revealed a man increasingly consumed by suspicion. He began adopting Persian customs, wearing their robes and demanding his soldiers bow before him in proskynesis, a gesture that enraged his Macedonian officers, who saw it as an insult to Greek equality. In 324 BCE, Alexander returned to Susa and organized a grand mass wedding between his officers and Persian women to symbolize the unity of his empire. He himself married Roxana of Bactria and later two Persian princesses, Statira and Parasatis. But these unions only deepened resentment among his Macedonian troops. The ideal of a blended empire, a fusion of Greek and Eastern cultures, was beautiful in theory, but impossible in practice. Then, tragedy struck. In 323 BCE, as Alexander was preparing his next campaign, he fell ill after a banquet in Babylon. Accounts differ. Some say it was malaria, others suggest poisoning, though modern historians doubt that. For 12 days, he suffered a high fever and could barely speak. His generals and soldiers crowded around his bedside, desperate for a sign. When asked to whom he left his empire, Alexander reportedly whispered, "To the strongest." Those were his final words, or so legend claims. On June 10, 323 BCE, at just 32 years old, Alexander the Great was dead. His death plunged the empire into chaos. There was no clear heir. His wife Roxana was pregnant, and his half-brother Aridaeus was mentally unfit to rule. The generals, known as the Diadochi, quickly divided the empire among themselves, each seeking to claim a portion of Alexander's legacy. Ptolemy took Egypt and founded a dynasty that would last for centuries. Seleucus claimed Persia and much of Asia. Antigonus and Cassander fought for control of Greece and Macedonia. The unity Alexander had fought so hard to achieve disintegrated almost immediately. In the years that followed, Alexander's name became both a legend and a warning. His empire, though vast, was built on the power of one man's vision and charisma. Without him, it could not endure. Yet his influence was undeniable. Greek culture spread throughout the East in what historians call the Hellenistic Age. Cities he founded, like Alexandria in Egypt, became centers of learning and trade. Greek language, art, and philosophy mingled with Persian, Egyptian, and Indian traditions, creating one of the most remarkable cultural fusions in history. In time, stories of Alexander's exploits turned to myth. He was portrayed as a god, a conqueror chosen by destiny. The Romans admired him, Napoleon studied him, and even modern leaders have invoked his name as a symbol of ambition and courage. But Alexander's fall reminds us of the fragility of greatness. His empire was vast, but it lacked the stability of lasting institutions. His dream of unity gave way to bloodshed among his successors. In his final days, Alexander's once sharp focus blurred under the weight of exhaustion and divine delusion. Some accounts claim that he realized too late that conquering the world was not the same as ruling it. His attempt to merge East and West was revolutionary but premature. The cultures he tried to unite were too distinct, their traditions too deeply rooted to blend through sheer force of will. When his body was placed in a golden sarcophagus, first in Memphis and later in Alexandria, thousands mourned. His mother Olympias fought to preserve his memory, and his successors carried his corpse across deserts and cities as a symbol of legitimacy. Yet none could replicate his brilliance. The world would never again see a conqueror quite like him. The rise and fall of Alexander the Great stand as one of history's most powerful narratives, a reminder that even the mightiest empires can crumble, and that the pursuit of immortality often leads to tragedy. His name endures not because of the empire he built, but because of the fire he ignited in human ambition, the eternal drive to reach beyond the horizon. Alexander's story ends not in defeat, but in legend. His empire dissolved, but his dream reshaped the ancient world. From the sands of Egypt to the mountains of India, echoes of his conquests remain. In every city that bears his name, in every story of ambition and courage, Alexander the Great lives on forever young, forever reaching for the edge of the world.